like that.
Oh, I missed it. So here we go, Charles. Wednesday. We're closing in today.
We are indeed, and it's amazing how you arranged to have the Washington Square Park there to Columbus, Ohio. How'd you do that?
They got rid of the fence around it. I'm kind of still in the mode of like observing what the hell is going on, and just cover a couple things here. Let's walk over to the arch and check it out. Just to cover a couple things before we get into the extensive presentation that you'll be giving us today. There were some problems yesterday, Charles, with my broadcast of the RFK Jr. / Del Bigtree event.
Right.
There was a lot of disruption, and I'm not exactly sure why that happened, but I'm using a different phone today to try to avoid that on our journey here.
That's nice.
Yeah, well, I don't have our ultra-wide lens, which is disappointing. I think people were coming to really enjoy that. And the other thing that's crazy, Charles, is that the new Crowdsource the Truth Forever channel, where shows that we do will be simulcast along with on the new Sunday with Charles channel. That Crowdsource the Truth Forever, it got a strike.
And it's first at that?
Its first day out of the bag, it got a strike. And there's all this Wi-Fi stuff here that wants to screw us up in the park. I'm just trying to see if we are in fact live right now. But, okay, no, right. We're not on Crowdsource the Truth Forever. Damn, I'm getting so thrown off, Charles, because they're striking every single channel.
That's right.
We are on the Sunday with Charles channel. Let me make sure we're going live on there. Here's Sunday with Charles. I got all these different channels now programmed into the phone to be able to check.
You've got a proliferation of channels.
And we're live. People are with us. So, okay, I just wanted to let people know about that. I have been making my way around New York City a little bit, and I've noticed a lot of things. This Q Labs COVID testing thing is sort of around. A lot of people have latched on to the fact that they're utilizing the 17th letter of the alphabet. I think it's probably
just the
Quest
name of
Diagnostics or something.
Yeah. So here we are, actually, we have capitalism in action in the center of communist Manhattan. We have these two girls selling lemonade. The first customers I've observed, they're charging $3 for a glass of lemonade because it's the village. You know, it's like it's premium.
Those girls look like they're 12.
I don't even think they're 12, but it is amusing. This portion of Manhattan, Washington Square Park, is ringed by NYU, your alma mater, and a number of the most expensive brownstones and buildings on the island. So it attracts, because most of the buildings are low, and the park is 10 acres here, 9.75 acres. It's a very genial atmosphere, so it attracts a lot of people from Europe, a lot of wealthy people, a lot of students with disposable income, and it leans heavily to the left. So I wonder what the backstory is on how these young girls decided to do this lemonade, and I also wonder how long it'll be before the cops come along to arrest them for selling food without a license.
Well, that's the type of thing the cops will do, is beat up 12-year-old girls.
Or 10-year-olds.
Yeah, I don't think they're really actually stopping crime. And they're not even here stationed at the park anymore. The fence is gone.
Right.
They finally got rid of all that F12 graffiti, which is nice.
That is nice.
Why don't we delve into the park for a second,
Sure.
Charles? Because one thing I have observed is that there do seem to be a lot more people out and about and around.
Well, I think they've gotten the memo, and there's the non-naked cowboy's distant cousin.
I saw some Chinese naked cowboy.
What is this guy with the red banner
Where
up there?
is he?
He's kind of right through the people in the purple coats there.
Oh yeah, right, holding up that sign over there wearing his underwear.
He's probably a distinguished graduate of Harvard Law School or Yale. Well, he's probably Hunter Biden's law school study partner.
Could be
You bring the crack, I'll bring the Parmesan cheese.
Could be his crack connection. His Parmesan cheese connection. Now we still have all these, guys riding bikes and skateboards and doing all kinds of dangerous things, which becomes even more dangerous now that the park is full of people.
Well, strictly speaking, you're not supposed to be using any wheeled vehicles inside the park.
Right.
Now, I guess what happened, Jason, is these people are highly educated, and they read the various memos that from different scientific groups, where the scientists claim that social distancing is baloney, and it doesn't matter whether you're 6 inches or 6 feet or 60 feet apart. The issue is how much particulate matter is in the air. generally speaking, not just from the two people next to each other, but from the impact of all the human activity in the space. But this is decidedly more crowded than even a week ago.
Oh, really? Well, the weather is really nice today. And, I don't want to get into the details because I don't want this video to get struck, but I have to say, both Del Bigtree and Robert Kennedy Jr. had some really interesting and important things to say yesterday. So I'm really quite disappointed that YouTube chose to just basically immediately eliminate that video.
So sure
People can see a nearly 4-hour-long version of it, Charles, on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/.
Just that video alone is a lot of value for money, right? 4 hours of production value for one monthly subscription.
Exactly. Well, but I mean, of course, I want people to sponsor the show, but I mean, we see everyone's like, put everything on YouTube. But after 5 years of working really, really hard, the YouTube channel can be destroyed in a matter of days. The videos can be removed. So I'm really not building anything that can sustain there. And while it's necessary to get the word out to as many people as possible, and that's the largest platform, we see how they've taken control of the debate. It was just last week that Susan Wojcicki, whatever her name is, got some award from the Freedom Institute or something for being a champion of free speech. I mean, that is just ridiculous. So
effectively
here we see the Park Police just standing here allowing this skateboard.
Well, they're going to give you a mask.
Well, they're giving out masks, but they don't mind that people are going to get their ankles broken by getting crashed into with skateboards when you're not allowed to skateboard.
Yeah, of course. I was thinking it might be interesting to go up to Astor Place and then down the East Village and then back up to the West Village. But yeah, this is a clear sign of progress. I mean, I remember when I went to Taiwan for the first time in 1991. And I was struck by how many bicycles and motorbikes and how few cars there were and how many people were pushing things around the streets of Taipei, which was a big city. We've gone from a place where people walk, take taxis, go on buses, whatever. So now where we see people everywhere on skateboards. The men have forgotten how to shave, and they look preposterous with these masks with their scruffy beards popping out.
Oof, look at this. This woman's struggling with the baby and the plastic thing on his face.
That's right. Pretty soon, you can imagine these idiots at CDC requiring all pregnant women to make sure that their babies in utero are wearing masks.
Well, they did just come out with some new guidelines about if you're vaccinated, you can go outside without a mask or with a mask. They seem to change it every week. That is really vastly different than my experience of how doctors normally behave. They're usually trying to exercise an abundance of caution and not radically change things from one week to the next.
Well, and typically it's called a doctor-patient relationship. It's not doctor-population relationship. I mean, people have very different bodies actually and health profiles, and to make some blanket prescription for everybody in a case where you can have less than 1% of the population can have a very different result than you expect across the population writ large. And that's before you start looking at population by age, by gender, by ethnicity, by health, by body mass index, by comorbidity.
Many business closures still.
Exactly.
I've seen, Charles, as I was walking around this morning, every time I leave the apartment without the camera, I regret not bringing it, but I went for a haircut and I did the walk back from the Upper East Side down to my place. Charles, there's businesses that have been in this city since I've been alive that have now closed.
Well, like, for example, I was just reading a story today about Brooks Brothers. I mean,
what'd they say?
Well, there was somebody reminiscing about how he used to really enjoy going to Brooks Brothers, as I did in my teens and 20s and 30s, when it was a high-quality place.
I think they're still open in Chicago.
Well, that's useful.
Right. But the company's not totally out, is it?
I think the company, I don't know exactly, but I think the company went bankrupt.
Wow. That's what I mean. That's like an American institution, and now it's going to be gone. And then, of course, tonight, Charles, we have Joe Wee's Is it the State of the Union, or what the hell is that dope doing tonight? Oh, that's sad. This dog is being wheeled around.
Unclear.
They haven't referred to it as State of the Union, right?
I think just an address to Congress, which, of course, to reflect Joe's IQ points, or percentile in IQ, the House of Representatives chamber is going to be 12.5% full because his IQ is 12.5%.
Wow, how did they arrive at that?
I don't know. They followed the science, Jason. They followed the science.
12.5%.
You know, but I believe the contents of his speech have been leaked or sent out on embargo to news media. So there begin to be reports that are predicting what he's going to talk about.
When they read it directly off the page, they begin to predict.
Exactly.
That's great.
But he's throwing around trillions that nobody has. I thought we might go up this way to 8th Street.
Now, you had mentioned something to me about this really stupid plan, because they've been talking a lot about how he's going to tax here's some chatty cops over there.
Sure.
Just yapping it up.
Exchanging cooking recipes.
But he's talking about taxing the rich. I don't begrudge anybody for being rich, and as a matter of fact, I think one of the things that makes capitalism work so great is this prospect that if you come up with a good idea, you could become rich. That drives innovation, and I think it would be better to focus on people that are stealing money, like, by setting up jobs for their crackhead sons in Ukraine.
Right.
Or anybody who's doing graft with a tax-exempt organization. Why doesn't he focus on that?
Well, I think this is part of a continuing targeting effort of enemies, perceived enemies of the deep state. I mean, the plan as was outlined or explained to me. Oh, Jesus, look at that. Congratulations, Global Liberal Studies, class of 2021. What's that? Of course, it's about nonsense?
Yeah, I don't know.
Mental disease? What is this?
Well, but if you just look around, we're on Broadway here. There's even more business closures than there were 3 months ago when I was here. Fifth Avenue up in Midtown in the 30s, Charles. Almost everything is closed around.
Right.
Whatever that is that used to be CompUSA over there.
But so back on Biden's tax plan, that what I read, and I don't know if it's true because it sounds exceedingly stupid, so it probably is true. Coming out of Biden is that they're asking for $80 billion at the IRS, another $80 billion to target the rich, to make sure that they comply in all respects with whatever the new soak the rich taxes are. And when you just think of that number.
Well, let me ask you about that number. So 80 billion, it's a huge sum.
Exactly.
And 80 billion is a huge sum. And when we're talking about it in terms of tooling up the IRS for enforcement, it's almost like an investment, thinking that we're going to recover money by spending the 80 billion. What I'm getting at is, as an investor, Charles, if I told you I had a prospect that was going to cost 80 billion, what would you expect in order for the return to justify that type of investment?
If you told me you needed $80 billion for a plan to soak the rich, I would take you directly
for a plan to do anything.
I'd take you directly to a Parmesan cheese shop because it'd be cheaper than buying you more crack. But no, to put that number in perspective, the United States declared military budget under Trump and now affirmed under Biden is around $720 billion. So 80 billion is 1/9 the cost of our entire military. Why would you take 1/9?
Seems reasonable.
1/9 the cost of the entire military to target, let's say, the top 1% of the population? What are you thinking? It's an absurd approach. What they should do is they should consider using existing resources. They should fire half the people in the IRS, frankly.
Right.
And they should use laws that are on the books, techniques and regulations that are available right now to go after the nonprofit sector, which is a leaking sieve and open wound of corruption, money laundering, and fraud.
Right.
And some estimate, I think the IRS commissioner estimated that in total, if you changed the way taxes were collected in the U.S., he thought you could collect $1 trillion.
Really?
I don't know if he meant per year or one-time $1 trillion.
Well, but also, what does he mean by change the way? Like just basically take everyone's money?
Well, no, I mean, take as an example the Clinton Foundation or the Gates Foundation or these big foundations that don't follow the rules and generated substantial personal income tax deductions for donors then give the opportunity for the organizations and their allies to launder money around the world, to pay off politicians, to steal money, to divert it for personal living. And I'm not saying that's all they do, but by loose enforcement of existing rules, nobody is punishing these big offshoots of what are really, either in the case of the Gates Foundation, monopolistic, the rewards to monopolists. Right?
Yeah.
Bill Gates was a monopolist. That's how he made his money. He gets to keep his money and paid very little tax, frankly, on his ill-gotten gains by transferring control of Microsoft and other shares into a foundation that he personally controls still, while taking a tax deduction. I mean, that's not right.
No.
And Bezos is set, I think, to do the same thing.
We got a crazy person behind us, Charles.
Bezos is set to do the same thing.
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk may end up doing it. Mark Zuckerberg's doing it.
They all do it.
Mike Bloomberg's doing it. And I'm not saying that everything that these people do is crooked, but I am saying that it would be a really relatively trivial exercise to make a list of the largest private foundations and public charities that exist in the United States and systematically go through them to examine, were they audited correctly? Did they declare their related party transactions? Do the books and records sync up? Were contributions declared by these entities actually made to other public charities, or did they go to politically connected people like the Clintons and others to buy the influence of the Clinton family and other dynastic political families? And that's an exercise where the evidence is really right there. You have the public filings of the charity. If you are the IRS, you have access to a lot of correspondence files. And then if you're the FBI and you wanted to do your job properly, which of course they don't, but if you did, you would have the ability to work with the Department of Treasury and really examine not the period end financial results, i.e. December 31st of a calendar year, but throughout the year in these foundations, how did money flow in and out? Where did it come from? Where did it go? And particularly, to what foreign countries did any of these sums go, and from what foreign countries did any of these contributions originate? Right. And we see, the big proponents of globalism, King Bill Gates, the Rockefellers, and others are keenly interested in setting up a system they dominate, where there are no effective regulations or controls, because no individual country. Boy, oh boy, let's keep going.
That's a banshee, Charles.
That's Joe Biden. He's practicing for a speech.
Arcade closed.
Let's get away from this guy.
Well, we're in a sketchy neighborhood, by the way, right now.
Yeah,
right?
this is.
Astor Place is kind of.
But it is sketchy, but it's much nicer than it used to be.
Something sketchy behind us here.
Yeah. All right, let's go over here for a second and inspect the garbage.
Yeah.
See, this is brilliant. Why don't we just
tuck in right here?
Yeah. I mean, it's a brilliant move to leave the garbage out when it gets hot. Because you have, garbage, and you got food, and you got people, and you got no policing. So you leave this garbage out, it heats right up, the rats come
like
for it, they rip up the bags, they strew the garbage out, the place goes further and further downhill.
We haven't really been able to do kind of weekly commentary on what's going on in New York because I haven't been that dialed in, but this is what I wanted to tell you. I don't want to get off of the nonprofit and why Joe Biden should be going after them, but I think there's more money laundering happening, Charles, and can I explain to you what I've learned today?
Sure.
So on my walk back from the haircut place, I stopped at MedMen on Fifth Avenue. That's a marijuana store, a cannabis dispensary that I recognize from Los Angeles. And I went in there and I said to them, hey, is weed legal? And they said, no, in New York, it's still medical only. Now, remember, just a couple of weeks ago, you told me that, and even, Cuomo came on the thing and said, they're legalizing, etc. But they've created this weird loophole situation. Possessing it is legal, but selling it is not yet legal. So how do you come to possess it if buying it or selling it is illegal? And what the hell is going on? That these guys are opening some fancy, expensive store. The guy said to me, oh, well, within our lifetime, we're going to see federal legalization. Because I said to him, who owns MedMen? And he said, it's publicly traded.
Really?
And I was like, what the hell are you talking about? You can't even accept credit cards because it's not federally legal. How could it be publicly traded? And an older guy who was shopping there said to me that it's traded on the Canadian stock exchange.
Yeah, that's right.
And then they do something to somehow exchange the money or that. I mean, that sounds crooked as hell. But we've got this cash-only industry, which Cuomo has now anointed certain companies to come here and get involved with. He seems to have the opportunity at any moment to federally prosecute somebody in this position. And think about how easily you could launder money, cash sales for marijuana. Is a bag of marijuana $50, $100?
Sure.
Who knows? And now that movie theaters are no longer effective money laundering, maybe legalized cannabis is the new route.
That's one route, but I submit to you that it's charities that is much. Charities are much more logical fronts if you want to be a crook to use for money laundering, because very few people question whether a charity is legitimate. You hear that somebody's giving away money and you say, why?
How could a weed store not be legitimate?
Right.
Well, anyway, that's what I observed. I found that strange that they were publicly traded. I just don't think that Joe Biden is going to do these things that we want him to do as far as empowering the IRS to go after these people.
Oh, I think he is going to, well, not to go after.
Some lonely dog just walking down the street. Whose dog is that? No tags.
Don't go all Karen on me.
I'm not going to do anything with it, but poor dog.
Yeah. So this is St. Mark's Place, I believe, and this is where my friend has the theater, remember?
Oh, this is for rent. This is for rent as well.
Much of New York will end up being for rent.
I mean, I'm telling you, Charles, on my walk back from the haircut place, I didn't count, but I feel like we're very, very close to 50% of ground level retail stores being for rent. Certainly 40%.
Sure. And I think there is a lot more activity in terms of foot traffic now that it's warmer. People are sick and tired of being indoors.
Yeah.
But unfortunately for New York, a lot of the foot traffic is exit stage left, exit stage right, exit however, any way you can. Get the puck out of here.
Yeah, we're in the land of Verizon trucks, U-Hauls, and Amazon bicycle deliveries.
Right, I gotta go to that clothing store there.
You mean you forgot
Get you
your
suited up?
fishnets?
Get you suited up in one of those black
You
outfits.
look good in those 4-inch platforms,
I
Charles.
don't think so.
No way you'd hurt your ankle with that.
Nah.
Now, the other thing that I've noticed, and that a friend of mine who is in real estate was telling me about, is that these things have become more permanent.
Right.
I saw one that had a metal fence in front of it. For the nighttime, we can see they have ramps for, I guess, wheelchairs. And my friend told me that what's happening is, these are not permanent structures, and they see that space right there?
Yep.
Rats are getting under there and creating nests and living underneath there. Food drops down.
Sure.
So,
I don't think it's so safe over that way. Not that it's safe here.
The other thing I've been seeing is a lot of video of people walking down the street. I saw a video yesterday of a black guy walking down the street, minding his own business, gets punched right in the face hard by another black guy who just came walking by. Why would he do that? I thought they
Black
just want
Lives
to punch
Matter.
white guys, yeah.
Yeah, well, there's a certain amount of. This city is an angry place, and it's. We've been in hard times now for over a year,
Yeah.
and if you're sitting there trying to be responsible, which I think very few people are, and you've got kids or you've got bills you got to pay, how do you plan? How do you decide how much you're going to be able to sell in a given period, what your cost should be, whether you should invest or not invest, do you want to buy something or not, buy, a building or something, real estate? It's very, very difficult to plan, other than to say, my plan is to do sweet fuck all, nothing.
Wait for the
2024 election.
They say that Andrew Yang is the front runner for mayor. Ah, there, look.
What?
They have the metal fence, but I don't understand. I mean, you would think that they would start preparing for dinner, right? I mean, is this place open?
I have no idea.
You know, these guys are
They're
painting
painting,
it, so
yeah.
they're getting ready for a more permanent.
Run up to chapter 11 or chapter 7.
Yeah, so I also did observe up by the haircut place, it was way more than 50% of the businesses that were out up there on the Upper East Side. One of them has been replaced by a sign that said cannabis dispensary coming soon.
Seems to me the way to handle that one, if it is legal, is to buy land, plant weed.
I mean, it's not a bad plan. Well, actually, it's not that easy though, because I think people come and steal it, and if you were to do that and want to sell it, I'm sure there's, factions that control who's selling what to who. And I mean, because it is this gray area thing where it's not federal, I mean, so if somebody steals all your weed, what do you call the cops and say, hey, they stole my weed? I don't think they're going to do anything.
It's the first time I've seen a Bangladesh restaurant in New York.
Bangladesh.
Right next to an Indian restaurant. You don't like Bangladesh?
I don't know really anything about Bangladesh except that Maersk had a ship run aground there with radiological material on it.
That's good for the spice business.
The Minister of Atomic Energy of Bangladesh said it was a dangerous threat and that they weren't authorized to carry that.
Huh.
The Blue Door is still open, Charles.
What's that?
I guess it's a porno store.
Huh.
But all these places remain closed.
Next to the fish and chip place. The Chippery.
Yeah.
Very popular place.
I like that place, Assault and Battery.
Yeah, that's cute.
But you can't eat that fish and chips too often. It's pretty heavy. The other thing that I've observed, Charles, not just here in New York, but pretty much all over the country, is that simultaneous with the destruction, there is, and I'm certainly not an expert on this, but is what I observe to be just a real lot of construction, considering everybody's going out of business, losing their jobs, moving out of the city. Not just this city. Minneapolis was also really under a lot of construction, and most notably, I think I mentioned to you that building that contained the nightclub that George Floyd and Derek Chauvin allegedly worked in together, the whole building has been razed, and locals think it burned down, but it was clearly made of brick, so I'm very suspicious of what was going on in that building and why we heard nothing about it during the trial.
Well, I think on the construction point, with interest rates as low as they are, developers who have good credit, and there are many, will use this as an opportunity to take out construction loans for projects that could take 2 to 3 years.
Got it.
Hoping that
Things turn around.
by the time they're finished building, that they'll be in much better shape. And if they have good credit, if they have other assets, they're able really not to be tremendously out of pocket, other than the liability they may have for the construction loan. It's certainly risky, though, particularly here in Manhattan, where the supply of real estate already is massive.
Well, it's strange to me that they're doing it in Minneapolis, because it seems like most people are moving out of there.
Let's just go right through these guys.
Sure.
Yeah.
They come to you with a problem. Take care of them if you like them.
Did you hear the statistic, Charles, that police in the NYPD are resigning in record numbers?
You got to be nuts to be in the police now.
Of course.
I mean, thank God we do have career police people who take their jobs seriously. But the idiots who populate MSNBC and CNN and these other channels wailing on police people.
What are they saying?
Well, they're just, any incident. This guy, for example, in Elizabeth City, North Carolina, who the police shot and killed, has a rap sheet which is either 80 pages long or 180. I forget which.
Yeah. That's long.
Yeah.
Either.
In either case, he's not really interested in law and order. He's interested in getting around law,
Right.
and not being brought into order.
Right.
So the correct way, I think, to look at these interactions where sadly people are killed, both police officers and suspects and maybe innocent people, is how many such interactions do you have in a time period? And of those, how many of them lead to these adverse consequences? And I think
Bernard Carrick has published numbers on that. It's very low.
if we go across, it'll be less hot. Yeah, it's minuscule. It's sad when it happens to somebody, but it's in terms of the number of times that
It
people
can't be eliminated completely.
It's never going to be. And the same thing I think is true of people get all hot and bothered, for example, about deaths resulting from guns. Deaths resulting from knives are higher than deaths resulting from
lot.
guns. So I suppose what we should do now is only serve a line of Joe Biden mashed potatoes to everybody. You don't need knives with that.
Peas in there, please.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, you raised the point also where I haven't mentioned this to anybody other than you, but I was actually in Columbus, Ohio, thinking I would cover protests of the shooting of that young lady who was stabbing somebody when she got shot. But that seemed to kind of calm down. I think they realized that it wasn't fitting the narrative too well because the cop who shot her saved another black person from getting killed.
Right, and that person who was saved, I think, gave a viral shout out thanking the policeman for saving her life.
Right, because I saw somebody who's like, oh, you know, that wasn't necessarily stabbing, it could have been self-defense, and it's Ohio is a stand your ground state, so that woman was defending herself. But when you watch the video, the girl who's getting stabbed is standing there, like leaning up against the car, like filing her nails or something, and the girl charges over and starts stabbing her.
I know. Crazy stuff.
Crazy stuff, Charles.
Yeah. So you teased out that there's new things to consider in the American Conservative Union and other charity frauds, and we don't have, excuse me, the information in front of us right now. We will be doing an in-studio presentation where we have more stuff for people to look at specifically. And I'm also hard at work on extensive writing materials, which I don't know how long it'll take for me to finish them. But when you look at the evidence in the public domain, to cut to the chase, the simplest thing to check is what Stuart Dean pointed out, the guy we did a bunch of the...
Maybe we should have him back on.
If he'll come back on, yeah. Remember, he's got constituents, let's just say, who are not happy. Yeah, he might have people he's close to who are not...
Into Trump?
Into anti-Clinton. So,
got it.
But in the case, what he points out is the first thing to check, and it's the kind of thing I've started doing now more regularly. Forget all the numbers, forget the dates, forget the timing, forget all that. Just ask yourself, is the organization that is filling out these forms what it claims to be?
Uh-huh.
Is it in fact a 501c4 tax-exempt nonprofit? Yes or no? And that's something the IRS explains in many memos and many books and many web postings. Look.
It's just something to observe for people. I mean, we're here at a funeral home when they're telling us that, everything's ramping up and it's crazy death and whatever, and you get a parking spot right here if you want.
Right.
Sorry.
Hopefully you're not inside.
Right.
So,
whoa, that's a cemetery in there.
sorry. Huh. So, the American Conservative Union, in theory, is what's called a 501c4 organization. And what that's supposed to be is a social welfare organization. That's supposed to be an entity that promotes the general public good. It is not allowed to take donations on a basis that is where the donors get tax deductions. It's not allowed to do that. But it is allowed to accumulate the difference between its revenues and expenses and not pay taxes if they're a positive number, and reinvest those nominal, you can call them profits, but it's really a positive change in net assets. They're allowed to do that for the life of the organization, which can be very, very long indeed. So to determine whether or not it's an organization, you have to ask yourself, in what jurisdiction was it theoretically organized? And you find out, notwithstanding comments on what?
Well, just looking at this. Notwithstanding comments on what?
Notwithstanding comments on various websites and in various public filings of the American Conservative Union, that it is currently incorporated in Virginia. In fact, it was incorporated in Washington, D.C. on June 28, 1979.
That's the fact, even though we saw something talking about the 60s?
Right. This entity was incorporated by filing articles of incorporation with the DC Recorder of Deeds on June 28, 1979. It was not, those articles do not appear to have been amended to be adopted by initial directors. Let's wait for the seal by.
Yeah.
Taking Joe Biden to the speech.
Right.
It's a senior care ambulance. But anyway, those articles were never adopted, it would seem, by the original directors. Now, in the original articles that were filed by 3 incorporators, a guy called Bob Bauman, we'll talk about him in a second, Tom Winter, the founder of something called Human Events, and the third person whose name escapes me, but I'm sure I'll get to it in a second. They acted as incorporators, filed these things June 28, 1979, and also appear to have opened up a file with Washington, D.C. And I today requested a checklist from that division of every report and every filing that has happened at the American Conservative Union since then. We'll see what I get back. The curious thing, though, is that in the articles, it's in the directors section, it says they have 31 directors.
I'm surprised not 33.
Well, to make the average 33, in the bylaws, they say they have 35.
That's no joke. That's a 33.
So there you go. But you can't normally have something in the bylaws contradict something that's in the articles that's fundamental to the organization. The issue, of course, when you think about a nonprofit corporation, to run these things belt and suspenders, typically what you put in the articles is language along the lines of, if it's a requirement that you at all times have 3 or more directors, you put that language in there. You say that you could say the initial number of directors shall be 31, but and that
it may be 35.
well,
but that means it's got to be at least 31.
No. Let me finish. You say the initial could be 31. That the board of directors via the bylaws may increase or decrease, but you put in this language that at no time shall the number of directors be less than the required minimum number of directors, which is 3. That language isn't in there. In addition, the language in the articles says the corporation shall be, shall be organized. In other words, it wasn't organized at the time that they signed the articles. And what you would want to do, again, belt and suspenders, to prove that you had formally created an entity independent from the creators, the founders, is you'd file the initial articles, and then you have the first board come together and amend the articles to have the signatures of the first directors on the articles, proving that the first directors came together and did more than just what the incorporators did. So they'd never done that.
And to clarify for lay people, Charles, who aren't lawyers, which I'm not either, but the word shall in legal language means it must. The word may means it could.
Right, okay. But, so they have that quirk. The next quirk they have, there are many, is in most all of the serious 501c4 organizations whose records I've looked through, most all of them say in the purpose section that the purpose of the organization is to organize and to operate a corporation consistent with IRS Code Section 501c4 as a social welfare organization. They make that plain up front. That you come into
social welfare mean exactly?
It just means
vague, it sounds.
It's intentionally vague, but it's meant to say that what the organization is doing is it's promoting aims that will further that will benefit society as a whole. And it's not narrowly for people who love cats or people who want this or people who want that. It's something you're coming together as a public-spirited group to promote, to engage in activities which better society and lessen the burden of the government. So for that's the reason that you get to operate on a basis where, as a corporation, you don't have to pay corporate income taxes. and where you may be able to avail yourself of other reduced cost services like cut rate postage for mailing,
Right.
things like that. So in the articles, nowhere is it written that the goal that I've seen is the goal of this thing is to be a 501c4 organization. Whereas in the bylaws, which were adopted in theory or dated July 15th, 1979, in Article 9, Section 1, they talk about how they're going to be state chapters, that this thing is going to could have chapters in every state. I don't know how far down you want to go, Jason. But
Well, it's up to you, Charles. I'm just looking at that. Is that new construction right there?
It's been going on for a while.
So
Well,
do they have those state chapters?
Well, I don't think so. And whenever I see an organization with state chapters, that it opens up a Pandora's box for fraud, because you can
Why?
have. Well, it says in Section 1, Article 9, that each chapter will be organized as a separate corporation on a basis where each chapter could be a 501c4 organization. Well, that's the first time you learn about that in the bylaws.
It's like a treasure trove for you reading this stuff.
Right, so, well, you have to compare lots of different things and lots of different versions. So, it's crystal clear to me that Bob, Robert Bauman, who is a lawyer, who was a lawyer and is a lawyer, either is a horrible lawyer or did not ask somebody to do a professional job organizing this entity, because it's not that complicated to cross-check the art. All I'm doing is reading the articles, reading the bylaws, reading DC nonprofit corporation law, and noticing the differences. But just in the get-go, the IRS, if they were ever going to look at this, which they should have, and maybe they did and decided to just let it go, they would look at this and they would look at the articles alone, because the bylaws often are not made available to the public. And they would say, well, we're going to review the articles, and if the articles do not describe a 501c4 organization, then the articles will have failed the crucial organizational test. End of discussion. You're not qualified to be a 501c4, and this supposed determination letter, which is an obvious to me forgery, would just serve as further evidence that a team of people decided they wanted to operate this shadowy group, pretend that it was a 501c4, hold themselves out as being able to collect that money, spend that money however they might want to spend it, and fully expecting that nobody would ever catch them out and bring them to justice. So
far that plan's working.
It would appear to be working. So, furthermore, the purposes, they call them purposes and objects, which is interesting. In America, purposes is the phrase that's used. Objects is the English law term of art, meaning the same thing. An English law object is the same as an American law
So they're
purchase.
mixing it.
Yeah, so it's mixing and
Maybe
showing
a
off,
British
perhaps.
guy helped them do it.
I guess. Help them screw it up.
Huh.
So now I think we're going slightly differently than we normally do. Here's two cops and the modern incarnation of Jesus Christ or Buddha or somebody.
Oh, it's Jack Dorsey.
Osama bin Dorsey.
Hey Jack, can you reactivate my Twitter account? It's not Jack Dorsey, Charles.
Yeah.
I don't think he appreciated it.
I don't think that's the smoothest of your moves there.
There's another Verizon truck.
They're everywhere, Jason. So the section 3 of the articles goes through the purposes, and it's a lot of gibberish about getting together, creating forums for members of the general public to interact with members of government and to engage in discussions.
This thing swept the Oscars.
Wow. McDormand is a great actress, or actor, or whatever you're supposed to call him.
Yeah, the director won Best Director, first time
Right.
a Chinese woman.
And she's not really getting too much praise, I think, in China.
probably she left China because she knows what's up over there, but also I think every single movie last night, basically nobody saw. I mean, I looked at the list of winners and I haven't even heard of any of those movies.
That's right. Best picture that no one has ever seen and nobody will ever want to see. I watched a bit of the Oscars, and I got to tell you, it was like watching a dress rehearsal for a really bad 7th grade show.
It's terrible.
You know, for the holiday pageant, let's say.
There was a time in my life that I was so focused on wanting an Oscar, and I think I've shown you the letter that someone in the International 3D Society submitted a development that I had created to the Academy for a Technical Academy Award.
Wow.
Yeah, because I was the first person to implement the use of a quarter wave retarder on a beam splitter optical element to eliminate polarization artifacts.
You sure?
In
I thought
3D
I did that.
cinematography. And this became an international standard, and everybody used it. And the Academy said, nah, we don't think that's interesting.
Yeah.
So I didn't get an Oscar for that.
Yeah, we're taking too many meetings with Harvey Weinstein.
I was going to throw away the letter. I think you encouraged me not to.
Yeah, you should frame it.
Just a letter from a bunch of dicks.
I don't know. Eventually it'll be interesting when you're a 95-year-old irascible version of yourself. You could say, see, little kid?
How could there be a more irascible version of this?
Time will tell. So, staying back then on the American Conservative Union, the purposes section to spare people the minutia, and don't shout it on me. I'm just going to fix my shoe.
I was just going to look at this garden.
Good. Sorry.
Yeah, I think it's a garden, right?
Vegetable garden, probably. Give me a sec. Fucking.
I tell you, Charles, I'm realizing how much I like that ultra wide angle. I think I might have left that phone in my car, which is now
Heating up.
Well, getting fixed, and they said it's going to take a month.
Yeah.
So not to derail, but
yeah. Sorry. So just finishing on the purposes section. The purposes section does not describe an entity that would exclusively be organized and operate as a 501c4 social welfare organization. It could be the equivalent of a gathering like Renaissance Weekend, where people will just talk and spout off hot air. It's not necessarily.
Do they joust at that?
No,
not
that one.
Been to that.
That's a Renaissance Fair, I think. Upstate New York. Renaissance
totally
Weekend is the thing that Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton and Chelsea Hubble go to.
You told me about that.
Yeah. You didn't catch that, did you?
Chelsea Hubble, I caught it.
All right, just making sure.
Sometimes I don't get the jokes until playback.
Okay.
And frequently, I'm trying to hail that woman.
Yeah.
Because
hail
up the fair, Charles.
Well, no, let's walk. This is a nice walk down here. We can show people. See how.
That would be nice if you could just hail a girlfriend. It's like, excuse me.
I'd like to give you half of my stuff.
If the light's on, you're good.
No one's home, you get half my stuff.
How's Dos Caminos? It's still open, I guess.
It's all over the place.
There's retail space over there for rent.
Now, if I wanted to live as a youngster, actually, I looked in my 20s instead of buying that big place upstate, I was going to buy a loft down here with the goal of having a squash court in it.
Wow, that would be huge.
Well, you could buy them back then for less than I paid for my weekend place in the 80s. You could buy whatever you wanted.
That would be pretty baller to have a squash
I know,
court
your own
at
squash.
house.
But come on, play squash at my house. The neighbors might not like it terribly much, but...
Why not racquetball?
Oh, Jason, if you have to ask.
It's a Yale thing.
Actually, squash is just a lot more challenging, a lot more interesting.
It's a good way to get your eye taken out if you
No, that's why
ball.
No, it's not just with a ball, it's with a racket. When I played it, long wooden rackets and hard balls. Now they have the softer balls. But
I thought that's the point of squash, is that the ball is hard. Your neighbors would be like, what is all that racket, Charles?
No, it's squash.
So here's another one of these more permanent American Express provided.
Nice china.
Hut. Yeah, that is nice china.
Nice table. Very Provençal. I like Provence, actually. Oops. So here we are now in Soho.
Yeah.
And It is Wednesday. What you
But
see
it's dead as hell.
Yeah, everything's for rent, for sale, for lease. Your art is in there, right? The poster collection, are we going to
No.
put it here?
No, I do hope to get to the book very soon, Charles. I am, there were some people who, I don't know, it's amazing the things that people want to send me emails about. There are people who question my decision to come back to New York to get the car fixed. It makes no sense, and they challenge it. I must be hiding something. But I didn't want to stay in a hotel. When the guy said 2 weeks, I was like, no, that looks like more than 2 weeks to me, and I don't want to be cooling my heels in a hotel.
I mean, unless it's a resort, unless you're playing tennis or
I was
something.
staying at hotels between $60 and $80 a night. And then when in LA, when I crashed, that was the most expensive hotels, and I just didn't feel like chilling out in a hotel for a month waiting for the car to get fixed. And there was a lot of stuff to work on back here. Lawsuits coming to important points. So I'm hopeful that these lawsuits will wrap up soon and I can get to the book.
You bring back memories. And when I was 30 years old, we sold this airline company I did as an agent, sold Western Airlines, the company. And for the closing dinner, the firm was very happy that we made a lot of money. So they let me take a lot of people to California at the firm's expense to have
dinner.
A series of dinners.
Wow.
And we stayed for 3 days at the Bel Air Hotel. Everybody, an individual cabana.
That's nice.
Yeah, there were all these movie geeks, famous movie geeks that I had no idea who they were. But they were wondering, what is this guy doing with all these bankers talking about, in the...
Did they come over and I'd like a table near Charles Ortel?
No, they
who are you?
Absolutely not.
Leonardo da who?
He
was like 10 at the time.
You believe... you should go over there to the definitely uncool section of the Bel Air Hotel.
VIP. Well, I tell you, Charles, it's a wreck down here. I'm seeing news as I'm traveling around the country that New York is back. You look at the Twitter feed from those two idiots, de Blasio and Cuomo, and
Yeah. But this particular street here is nice and wide, relatively quiet. I bet you some of the spaces in these buildings are very beautiful.
But look, all the city bikes. Normally this would be gone, not a bike there.
I think the city bike project, they should take these city bikes and they should dump them in front of Mike Bloomberg's many properties around the world. Just say,
Did he
thanks,
create
Mike.
City Bike?
He was instrumental in pushing it. I mean, this is just, you're taking away, if it is a good idea to rent bikes, let the private sector do it.
They're expensive.
And they are expensive.
Those city bikes, yeah.
Right. And, you've taken away a large amount of the parking spaces.
You've also taken away business from the bike companies because after I decided that was too expensive, that's when I bought the bike.
Right. Exactly. But this is a part of New York where I think it's now one of the most expensive sections down in here.
Oh, definitely.
And as you head west, you get into some purpose-built buildings that are very large spaces. A lot of the fancy apartments in your building and other more traditional apartment buildings don't have 4,000 square foot floors available for multiple apartments with
Charles,
private elevators.
This is one of the most prominent neighborhoods in which your business can go under. Look at that band across the street. Should we look at that?
Well,
No.
let's not get too close.
Why not?
Oh, we can if you want.
Oh, it's jazz. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Did you say it's noise?
Sounds pretty good. I like the upright bass, but why a mask outside? Yeah, so they have all these complicated rules, Charles, now. If you're vaccinated, when to wear. I like the duck mask.
The alligator.
Alligator, sorry. Shows what I know.
See? You know jazz.
Is there an Instagram people can look you guys up on? Not yet. Okay, good luck. They've got this whole papered up place to.
Right. But I think in pre-pandemic prime, this street, this particular area here was white hot.
Absolutely.
And you can get repackaged garbage.
I had a conversation with a waitress in Chicago when I went to lunch, and I asked her how business had been because the restaurant looked pretty full in Chicago. I think she said that they were able to have, what is this?
This is where my ex-wife, or I should say my first wife, used to get her hair done at the not at this downtown one. This is Frederick Fakai, and I don't. Back in the early '90s, a haircut was $600.
What?
Well, coloring, a haircut, all that kind of stuff. I shudder to think how much it is now.
600. I'm sorry. That's crazy.
Well, yeah.
I would pay someone $600 to put hair back in my head.
For just one night, or?
I mean, to keep it there.
Okay.
But that's a lot of money, Charles.
It is. But these are very expensive, were very expensive stores.
Exactly. Somebody's graffitied the dumbwaiter.
Well, I think that's for a wheelchair.
Oh.
Maybe.
Oh, you're right. Just to get up onto these stairs.
Yeah.
But whatever it is, it's graffitied. Bombed by graffiti. Store after store out of business.
Yeah. This used to be, I think, a gallery.
What does this say here? Who are...
Hey, that's my part.
Sorry, what's it covering there? It's somebody else's building. I'm just looking underneath it.
Have to.
Don't tell me what I
Mind your
have to
own
do.
business.
Okay, yeah. So you have a permit to tape stuff to this wall here? Yeah? I'd like to see it.
I think you're just in trouble.
I think I'm minding my own business and you need to mind your own business.
This is Picasso.
Sorry, what?
But Jason, let's go. Just giving him.
Has no right to be there.
He signed his work, Picasso.
Pick asshole? Yeah, that sounds right.
This is a nice restaurant.
Serafino?
Cipriani.
Cipriano. That is nice. Charles, why'd you park all the way over here?
I leave my gray one over here.
Yeah. Oops, I think I just did something to stabilize it. There we go.
So I don't know, maybe we should head west, or
Wherever you want to go.
I'm just interested in kind of checking the scene out. Maybe we'll walk up Thompson, and Thompson goes to your,
Yeah.
what's the name of that place again?
Monty's.
Monty's is Thompson, right?
McDougal.
The McDougal? Okay.
But there's so many of these places, they seem empty, Charles.
Yeah. They are, that's because they are empty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we can walk up Thompson.
I mean, normally on a day like today, if we weren't having a pandemic, the speed that we can walk at would be determined by the density of the crowd
Sure.
on the street. We'd be avoiding people as we walk down the street, shoulder to shoulder. You'd invariably bump into people. None of that is happening. Oh yeah, so this thing came out, Mortal Kombat, and I think they said it made 22 million and that was showing signs of the box office coming back to life. To be fair, that is the most money that they've reported any major motion picture to have made, but for a film like that to make less than $120 million is a disaster on the opening week.
And that's not making, that's grossing.
Gross, right, that's what I meant.
Yeah, I mean, so that's horrific.
Well, and also it typically goes down by a lot
Right.
after the first weekend.
This is a nice place, I've been here.
Looks nice, but it looks empty. I mean, if you're the owner of this business and you see this for even one night, you are concerned.
You go across the street and you can,
Jeez. I'm telling you, Charles, it's a disaster.
and then, then just let's focus on this sign here. Maud Moron. Who would want to run for city council in
Oh.
a city that is going straight? It's not in the toilet bowl. It's not in the sewage tank.
Well, maybe she wants to fix it.
I doubt it.
She's bringing red and blue together or something in that picture.
With white.
Yeah, it's too white. I think we're gonna be back. Let's just see here.
Good.
I don't know if we have anybody watching still.
Thank you to the patient ones.
Yes. Let's see if it's. Here's Maud.
It's pronounced moron.
Okay, it's back.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, Charles. What do you think about that? We're walking around for an hour.
Don't say it again.
And the second I say it, it
Don't
cuts
say it
out.
again.
I mean, could that be a coincidence, or do you think that that's evidence of active disruption?
Anything's possible, Jason.
Now, wait a minute. I don't know if we're... Oh, we don't have our audio going properly. Sorry, hang on a second. Oh, my God. And the battery is almost dead on the audio. Wow. That's very surprising. Check, check, check. Okay. I think we're back to full steam. Now, one thing, Charles, that you were mentioning while we were in recovery mode there, unless there's something else you'd like to discuss, this FBI raid of Rudy Giuliani.
Yeah, I mean, it's alongside the announcement that Biden is going to ask for $80 billion to target the super wealthy, and you can assume that the super wealthy will
Includes Trump.
will presumably start with Republicans and Trump supporters.
Right.
You have this. You have the revelation through, I think, conservative treehouse and other means that the U.S. Postal Inspector Service, instead of looking at charity frauds that use the mail, like potentially the Conservative Union Foundation and the Clinton Foundation, they have been scouring social media
For porn?
well, no, to look at questionable activities, principally of conservatives. And
The
I mean,
post
that's
office has?
apparently, yeah. The postal. That's just outrageous. You have that, and then it is very unusual, I think, as you know, to go against a lawyer to execute a search warrant for information in the possession of a lawyer.
It's becoming standard. They did it to Cohen.
Well, Cohen was barely a lawyer. Cohen wasn't a U.S. attorney.
Or the mayor of New York.
Or
Pretty
the
bad.
Right. So this kind of a precedent, I think, is a very dangerous precedent, because there will come a time when there is an unprincipled conservative or an unprincipled right-leaning person in the White House, potentially with control in the House and the Senate, is going to say, all right, what's good
Do
for
the
the
same
goose is good for the gander. Let's go through a list of all Democrats and progressives. And if you think the Un-American Activities Committee was bad with McCarthy,
Who died at 48 from drinking?
right, you ain't seen nothing yet. So I'm amazed that folks like Bernie Sanders and people in the American Civil Liberties Union and others aren't saying, we don't like Rudy all that much, and we don't like what he may have been doing with Trump.
But don't do it this way.
This is not the correct way to do it.
Right.
And apparently the career people in justice were not letting the search warrant go through, but after Merrick Garland was confirmed as Attorney General and his deputies went in, everything's changed.
Wow.
So this is quite ominous. And I think the insiders believe they can get away with it because they got the mainstream corporate-owned media cooked and academia cooked, and now everyone who's got something to worry about is probably more worried than they used to be that the IRS, Justice, and others might come after them. But the American public at large, the overwhelming majority of voters, doesn't have assets, doesn't have financial assets, doesn't have these same exposures. Most of them are honest. And they see this for what it is. They stole the 2020 election. We see that.
Oh, let's not get this channel struck.
All right. Okay. Sorry. But
I agree with you, but
tell space.
YouTube doesn't want you to debate that. Charles, I mean, this is such an obvious thing to say, but I mean, as long as you're not, slandering somebody or threatening to kill them or doing something illegal, shouldn't you be able to postulate about whatever outrageous theory you might have, and that the only counter to that should be, look, that's an idiotic theory and here's why. YouTube should just produce more videos about what they think happened if they don't like what we're saying about it.
Well, let's think about that for a second. Hillary Clinton has spent, since the night of the 2016 election, to the president arguing that she is the bona fide president of the United States,
Take
that
her
the
off
election was
Twitter.
stolen. And Stacey Abrams has made a career.
Take her off Twitter.
No, she gets promoted, she gets book deals, she gets lionized or lionessized or whatever the right phrase is. And you're not allowed to ask a question if it upsets the tech woke hierarchy, you're just not allowed to do it. And I think there needs to be a rebalancing of that whole filtration approach.
2 to 3. Okay.
Let's see. Just keep going up this way, right?
Sure.
I know you didn't want to run me into that table.
What?
You know, you were steering me directly into that table.
No, I wasn't looking at that. Well, so what would you say, Charles, is the next phase of the investigation into the American Conservative Union?
Well, we're going to take a sideways look. I've been looking around at other 501c4s to see how they do it. And it's interesting that on the one hand, some of them, I want to say Onward Together and perhaps Organizing for America.
Yeah, that one we've got to really look at. And another 501c4 of interest is the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences.
Right. So many of them do say in the purposes section, they do open up and say we're organizing ourselves to be a 501c4 organization within the meaning of that IRS code section to do X, Y, and Z. Many of them do say that. But some of them...
Grift and Inure.
No. But some of them, I think both Onward and Organizing for America, I think they both are deficient in the way they describe each corporation. They just say, we're a DC nonprofit corporation. They don't go and...
Third eye open. We also haven't necessarily explicitly discussed, and then that's an alien in the middle of the eye, Charles.
Right.
We haven't necessarily explicitly discussed how OFA, Obama for America, Organizing for America, Organizing for Action, is doing the same exact thing. It's got all these different names that are kind of the same, and they've got people working for them who have been harassing me for 4 years and making shows on HBO about me.
Well, and actually there's a book just out, I think I saw a mention of it today, that is all about Obama's illegal network of charities.
Illegal network?
Mm-hmm.
How about that?
I'll have to go and check. I just was looking at a lot of different things, and I assumed it'll be reviewed.
I guess we're not getting any more emails from book agents because we haven't been doing the show in the studio for a while.
No, I get them every day.
You're not forwarding them?
Well, just because it doesn't make sense to walk around and review a book. No, I get 2 or 3 a day.
Well, we should maybe, if there's an interesting
Sure, we'll give a platform to
topic or person. Although, you know what, we got to wait because the authors aren't going to want to come on a channel with 174 subscribers. So people can hopefully subscribe to Crowdsource the Truth Forever.
Here's another
Sunday
Biden
with
place.
Charles. How is it a Biden place?
Yeah, Kooks.
Yes.
Actually, we always gloss over the art department's offering, and once again, the art department has come up with a real winner.
Yes, big flop, Joe Wee.
And that really is to put a marker down that tonight he's going to, in theory, give his speech to Congress, which will be a snooze fest.
Did we ever figure out what he was talking about with the Apache Nation? I mean, that really sounded like
Navajo.
Sorry, the Navajo Nation. But it sounded like delirium to me.
It was Joe. What do you expect?
But I mean, was his wife somehow meeting with him?
I don't know.
Or is that just imagined? Like, I mean, if Trump said something like that, they'd be talking about it for the next 5 years.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
I don't know. Nobody is eating in these outdoor things.
I think what they're pivoting to is they're getting ready to Biden out, Harris in.
Somebody sent me a picture today of.
Concentrate, Jason. Concentrate.
Yeah. Somebody sent me a picture today, Charles, of a green screen set up to take a photo of Kamala Harris getting onto the airplane. Why the hell do they need that? Why not just get her getting onto the real airplane?
I just don't know. The sad thing is, and I'll be getting into this in coming months, we've done several shows at the very beginning. I did shows with you and talking about the size of government in relation to the size of the private sector. And frankly, under Trump, the size of government has exploded while the private sector is constrained. Yeah, with the pandemic, the shutdown, and all the spending.
Right.
And so,
I mean, I'm not so enthusiastic about Trump 24. He kind of screwed up.
unless he's prepared to go down a track of saying, I screwed up in these ways, and here is how I'm not going to screw up in the new term.
I'm open to hearing that,
Yeah.
but not so enthusiastic at this moment.
But short of that, mea culpa, mea maxima culpa. There's a bunch of guys in there making noise.
No, I just was going to look down this street for a minute because it just doesn't look that inviting. It just looks...
I think this is, without revealing which one, I think, and please don't, I think this is very near where Anderson Cooper lives.
Oh, yeah.
Let's
looking
not
at
give it away.
Yeah.
Even though he would probably do it to you or to me. So now we've come up, we're heading north, back into Washington Square Snark, Washington Square Park. I remember when I was a little kid how much I used to love to come here after school, in this time of year, and then through summer.
Yeah.
It was so much fun.
Well, it's another reason why I felt it made sense to come back to New York is that...
To play in the park?
No, but right now and the fall are the nicest
yeah.
times of the year by far in New York. The beginning of spring, there's usually between 3 and 6 weeks that are just amazingly great. And then it gets very hot and the city's like a giant brick oven.
September can be very beautiful.
Right, and then the fall. I love it. So we're back in the craziness of the park here.
They are, and we don't see, there aren't as many BLM rallies. You would have expected, I mean, we were in a zone through the election where there was a BLM rally every day here almost. So,
Well, maybe they're scheming for the next...
well, I think a bunch of BLM people put horse poop or dog poop in front of the White House because Biden isn't doing enough.
I support that. Crap on Biden. If that was their platform, I could get behind it. Crap lives matter.
I don't think you'd want to get behind that platform. You might want to
I get
stay
in
well
front
in
of
front of it. Yeah.
Look at that kind of like shorty garbage truck right there.
What?
It's like a mini garbage truck or something weird going on right there.
I think you're talking about the convertible.
That's an MG
That's an old MG, right?
or a TR. What is this? I think it's an MG.
It's nice.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's a
I think it's a
Triumph. No, what is it? Is that your car? It's real nice. What are we looking at?
You're looking at Pininfarina Spider, 1981 by Fiat.
Fiat, Pininfarina Spider. So Pininfarina designed all the Ferraris.
Yeah, that's the man. That's the man.
And did
He
you?
designed this for a poor-man sports car.
Looks cool, man.
Hey,
Did you buy it originally?
I bought it in 81, yeah.
Oh,
Really?
wow.
You keep it in Manhattan?
Super clean.
Yeah, I live in Manhattan all my life.
Nice.
But I'm one of them guys that keep stuff forever. Everything I have out.
You know what this looks to me like? Nissan copied this to make the
Nissan?
280Z.
No, doesn't have the same design.
Well, the headlights look a little similar.
Well,
you
maybe
know?
because everybody's running around headlights. If anything, it would be Mazda.
Well, the Miata much later, right?
Yeah, I like the Miata line. I like the Miata line.
So this is a good car to just roll out, stand here, drink a soda, and wait for the ladies to walk by.
I can't stop them from getting there.
Hey, you
But
know.
the only reason that I have this car because I can afford it. You know, when I was looking for cars back in '81, they started at 20 grand for a sports car. I didn't have that kind of money.
Wow.
Then I tripped up on this, and they said 10 grand, 10.5.
That was a lot in '81.
But I mean, it looks like you've maintained it
20.
pristinely.
10 ain't 20, 10
That's
grand
right.
ain't 20 grand.
That's
You
true.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And everything is the parts are so cheap, it's ridiculous. The parts cost nothing. So I was able to, and then parts, I had no problem getting parts. 40 years, I never had a problem getting parts.
You work on this yourself?
No, I had the same mechanic for about 30 years.
Wow. Well, real nice
Now I
car.
work on it in his house, go in his backyard.
Well, thanks for speaking to us.
Okay, what you making a little video? Oh, you doing it? Because I saw you over there. You got a whole professional setup right here.
You know, try to keep it nice.
Okay, you got the moving thing so it stays still while you're moving.
Oh no, this thing is telling me shutdown warning, battery too low. Okay, well, thanks for speaking to us, sir. Have a nice
You guys
afternoon.
have a nice day.
You too. Thanks.
Hey Charles, I'm not sure why that's happening. This is now the first time we've ever had a battery drainage on the sound mixer.
Well,
but
we
that
better respect
drives
it.
this thing. So it's going to shut off any second, and then we're going to lose sound. But
All right. Well,
anything else you'd like to cover today?
good to be back with you, Jason, and we'll get back
Likewise.
together on Sunday.
Absolutely, Charles. I look forward to that, and we'll just leave everybody with this nice view of the park on a nice day. Please share this video, everybody. Crowdsource the just went away. Okay, so yeah, now we have very quiet sound. But please become a sponsor on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. And have a great